Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful afternoon. Let's chat Ryan Gravenberch, heavily linked to Liverpool Football Club for a summer move. There is some contention over that, which we'll cover. But I'm going to talk a little bit about positional fit, some statistics, some comparable players, etc. And I want to get not only are we talking through the latest stories around him, but I want to get your thoughts, your takes on him, any other players that Liverpool have been linked with. In fact, anything in general. You can use the live show chat by all means, and if you're a Club Legend subscriber to Redmen Plus, you can use the live show chat channel in the Discord as well. And I'll be here for, well, we'll see how we go. Probably 15, 20 minutes or whatever, depending how much interest there is in talking about Ryan Gravenberch. I've got quite a lot. I want to preface all of this by, I've just watched a Ryan Gravenberch YouTube compilation, and my hot take on him is he looked rubbish. Now, it's not borne out in some of the data that I've looked at since, but I want to get a little bit of a feel for him. And we've been saying this, look, we've been doing these kind of things for well over a decade now on Redmen. And it's mad when you do see a player who doesn't totally float your boat on a YouTube highlight reel, because the thing about highlight reels is they tend to be the best bits. And look, I'll talk about what I saw. I'm going to read the latest article from Neil Jones. Florian Plettenberg's been talking about him as well. Who's done several shows for Redmen Plus this season as well. But yeah, I thought it was quite interesting. I'm not sure what I expected to see. What I certainly saw was a guy who fits the right physical stature for what Liverpool will need in midfield. And some of that will depend upon who he's maybe replacing, what position he's likely to be playing for Liverpool's midfield. If he's going to play as a box-to-box midfielder or as a six, then he's 190 centimeters tall, which is about what, 6'2", 6'3", 6'3", there or thereabouts. So good. Fabinho height is what that is, very generally speaking. And if Fabinho is starting to be on the wane, I have a little concern around the players that we do put into Liverpool's midfield. And now there's two conversations to be had around this. If Liverpool are persistent with the 4-3-3, a traditional Klopp Liverpool 4-3-3, and whether we're going to go with the sort of box midfield, inverted fullback, Trent Alexander-Arnold effectively looks like a bit of a double pivot six alongside someone in front of a back three. It's a slightly different conversation. But my general, regardless of what formation you're talking about, if you take Fabinho out of that at the minute, Liverpool's other options are a lot shorter. I mean, you're talking about Stefan Bajcetic is not short, by the way. He's around the 6 foot mark, but he's not a giant. Harvey Elliott is obviously very, very small. Thiago's another small guy. Henderson's a decent size. He's a 6 footer. Curtis Jones is another one who's fine in that regard. We've had Naby Keita in there, Oxlade-Chamberlain, etc. James Milner's another smaller fella. I think we need more physicality in that space, and I do think one thing that you can get from even a YouTube highlights reel that isn't necessarily thrilling in terms of his overall output. What you can see there is he likes rough and tumble. He's shoulder to shoulder with people. He's rounding people. He's driving forward with the ball. He looks hungry for it. He looks hungry to carry. He looks hungry to win. And I think there's been a little bit lacking in that, and that's good. And that's one thing I've noticed of a number of the midfielders Liverpool have been linked with, these so-called Jude Bellingham alternatives. A lot of them are smaller guys. And that's a slight concern, because this will happen a lot to teams who get sweet on a technical side of playing football. You start off trying to bully your way into the league. So you buy pace and you buy power. And sometimes in buying power, you lose pace. And then sometimes in buying pace, you lose power. The top teams buy players who've got both. Lots of them. To really round out their team. And what you do is, if you fall into the technical side of things sometimes, this is what happened to Arsenal. So Arsenal go from a team that have got Sol Campbell and Martin Keown and well, when they upgrade, they have Ashley Cole at the fullbacks, they'll have had Lauren at fullback, they bring Colo Torre in, they've got Patrick Vieira, they'll have Petit, Robert Perez was not powerful, was a tall basic guy. Thierry Henry actually decent frame on him, etc. And then all of a sudden Cesc Fabregas comes through, and you're like, ooh. Cesc Fabregas, what a talent. And you make exceptions for truly gifted technical footballers. You can make accommodations for them, but only a few in the Premier League. And there's almost a tipping point where when you start to averagely lose height in your side, you become less dangerous from set pieces, you become weaker at defending set pieces. And Paul Tompkins has written some great stuff on this over the last year, and maybe even going into the COVID season, following lots and lots of data that suggests exactly that with Liverpool. When we have an on average shorter starting 11, we are on average weaker at scoring from set plays and more likely to concede from them. So yeah, you have a thing where, and just to carry on the Arsenal point, is that you then have Jack Wilshere comes through, and you think, okay, well, he's another wonderfully technically gifted footballer. And then all of a sudden, but either all of your central midfield is tiny, or 2/3 of your central midfield is tiny, and that makes you easier to be bullied when you come up against those teams lower down the league who have sacrificed pace for power, or have sacrificed power for pace, and you've got lots of very small, quite technically gifted, slow footballers in your team. Anyway. Just one comment, actually, which we've had the first one come in just on Ryan Gravenberch before I get into the story from QuadBod. Thank you so much for this quad, who says, he's younger than I'd expect would be our age/experience target. Did look very good at Ajax, but why are Bayern not playing him? Overall, unconvinced would be the word. Cool. Well, keep your thoughts coming in on Gravenberch, and I'll read through some of the comments as we go. But I'm just going to get us up to date with the story, really. And this from Neil Jones, who's been in doing Journo Insights. I'm going to play a little clip out from his talk with Steve today with some more insight into this transfer. But on goal.com by Neil Jones, Liverpool's Jude Bellingham alternative? Bayern Munich flop. Ryan Gravenberch could be part of Klopp's midfield solution. We'll scroll down. As a list of potential targets there. He says the Netherlands international is one of a host of summer transfer targets for the Reds, and has the profile and skill set to thrive at Anfield. If you're a midfielder aged 26 or under and have played some kind of top flight European football in the past 2 years, there's a fair chance you'll be linked with Liverpool in the coming weeks if you haven't already. The list of players being touted for a summer move to Anfield is getting longer by the day, it seems. You can cross Jude Bellingham off it for now at least, but in Mason Mount, Mateus Nunes, Conor Gallagher, Alexis McAllister, Moises Caicedo, Teun Koopmeiners, Jesper Lindstrom, who sounds very much like he would be brilliant on CMO 102, Yuri Tielemans, Declan Rice, Jacob Ramsey, Nicolo Barella, Gavi, Ruben Neves, and Gabri Veiga. There are plenty of other names to look out for, and that's just on page one. Gravenberch is the latest to emerge as a target, with the Reds exploring the possibility of a deal for the Bayern Munich man. A fee of just £25 million has even been touted for the 20-year-old. Is understood to be receptive to the idea of a move to Merseyside. We'll continue beyond Jurgen Klopp's little video there. And he says, a smart signing potentially for a club which needs a few of those at the moment. Would he to fit the bill? Goal takes a look at the situation. Obviously, you can go to Goal and read that full article. It is counteracted ever so slightly. So this is Anfield, I've been reporting this, but Florian Plettenberg tweeted something about this. German and English sources disagree on Ryan Gravenberch to Liverpool, writes Jack Lusby on thisisanfield.com. Journalists in England and Germany have confirmed Liverpool's interest in Gravenberch, but disagree on his chances of leaving Bayern. He's a target for the Reds. They plan their summer rebuild, with talks held between the club representative and the player's agent last week. That was the real heavy story which kicked all of this off, almost in the immediate aftermath of the Jude Bellingham, Liverpool pulling out of the Jude Bellingham deal stuff. It's, as they say here, this comes after the end of Liverpool's pursuit of Jude Bellingham, with the Dutch youngster considered a viable alternative, as at least 3 new midfielders are sought. The manner in which the story developed on Merseyside suggests the deal for Gravenberch could in fact be close, as was the case when Cody Gakpo joined, but speculation has slowed slightly. With Sky Germany's Florian Plettenberg, friend of the show, bringing word that from Munich, the Bayern consider their number 38 definitely not for sale. Speaking to Sky Sports, Plettenberg said, Bayern, the Bundesliga club, want to work with Gravenberch, having invested a lot of money and a lot of time to get him from Ajax. He believes there is a 100% chance of the midfielder staying at Bayern. And as mentioned there by a couple of other people, they say it would appear, though, the journalists on Merseyside are being briefed differently with goals. Neil Jones, among those reports on Tuesday, that Bayern are believed to be open to selling. And that follows an update from Sky Sports' Melissa Reddy, another friend of the show, who also included the open to selling line in her report. However, Reddy added that Bayern's public position is they won't listen to offers for the player, which ties in with Plettenberg's information. Gravenberch is said to be enthusiastic over reviving his fortunes at Anfield, according to Reddy, while Jones added another report that the 20-year-old is understood to be receptive of a move to Merseyside. So that's where we're at with Ryan Gravenberch so far. There's lots of sort of rumours on the grapevine of this kind of stuff, that the idea he wants to move to Merseyside. Liverpool seem reasonably confident that they can get a deal across the line, and then you start to get into the idea of value. You know, he's valued on Transfermarkt at around £30 million. We'll have a quick look at that. Obviously 20 years old, will turn 21 next month as well, so nice age, as mentioned. Good height on there as well. 11 caps already for the Dutch national team, and currently valued at €30 million. And there's a reason why his value hasn't skyrocketed, which is his performances in the season we've just had, which I will discuss at length in a moment. But just in terms of top lines, he's made just 27 appearances for Bayern, which you might think of, 27 is quite a lot. That's probably around just under half of the total games that Bayern will end up playing in a full season, you'd guess. But look at the minutes. 711 minutes across the season is not a significant amount of football by anyone's stretch, which is what, 8 or 9 90s, total cumulative, and it's not even that he's getting that. If we then break down is actually where his minutes are coming throughout the Bundesliga season, Frankfurt, the first game of the season, the way at Frankfurt, gets 33 minutes, gets 7 against Wolfsburg in the next game, 29 against Bochum on the bench against Borussia Mönchengladbach, 28 minutes against Union Berlin, 9 against Stuttgart. He's on the bench unused for Augsburg in a 1-0 defeat there, 9 minutes against Leverkusen. Doesn't play against Dortmund, doesn't play against Freiburg, 14 minutes against Hoffenheim, 19 minutes against Mainz. Not used the week after that, 19 minutes, 10 minutes, not used, 45 against Cologne, 20 against Frankfurt, out with a couple of games injury, 45, not used 8, 12, not used 4, 13, 10. I might as well just read the whole thing. I was going to stop at one point there, and I thought, figure I'm in for a penny. He's had some games in the Champions League. In fact, he's actually had a bit more Champions League time. 2 full 90s under his belt in Champions League football this season. Didn't play against Inter. Got 10 minutes against Barca. The full 90 against Victoria Plitzen, followed by 34 minutes in the away game against them. 23 then against Barca. The full 90 as an attacking mid against Inter Milan in the 2-0 win. At the Allianz for that one, 3 minutes against Paris Saint-Germain, and then wasn't used again for their other 3 games. Obviously, they play Manchester City tonight in the second leg, and it remains to be seen whether he will be used in that one. But yeah, we will see that. And again, 80 minutes against Victoria Cologne in the first round of the DFB Pokal, which is obviously the German FA Cup effectively, and 26 against Mainz. So really finding his chances hard to come by at Bayern Munich this season, and that has an obvious knock on to his overall output, which you wouldn't expect to be. He's not playing as like in the front in the attacking line for Bayern. He is definitely playing more central mid, little hint towards DM, little hint occasionally towards AM. Just 1 goal and 1 assist in that 711 minutes of football isn't great. I just want to, though, for the sake of just a point of interest more than anything else, take a look at his overall playing stats from last season, when of course he was playing at Ajax in the season where he's 19, 10 and 20. Obviously much better, because this is the season that ultimately convinces Bayern Munich to splash the cash on him. 42 appearances, all comps for the Dutch side. 3,199 minutes, which is what you're expecting. That's what a senior footballer really should be playing. Aaron, if you just turn that screen off for 2 seconds, I just want to just back up my point on that. I just want to illustrate the point in terms of minutes. It's just going to take a moment for my laptop to load up another screen. I just want to show you what Liverpool players are playing at the moment, just to give you a clear idea of kind of where that puts them. my laptop is creaking with all the work I'm asking at the moment, so bear with me a moment while it does play catch up. But yeah, really interested to see. Yeah, he's obviously not. It's just not worked out for him for Bayern, and I think Quadbod's point there. And if anyone's followed any of the Bundesliga, would care to comment on it. What is your understanding of his position within the Bayern Munich squad? I mean, obviously we've got a cursory eye on them with Sadio Mane moving there. He obviously had injury issues which kept him out of the World Cup, and he's obviously having other issues of late as well. But yeah, obviously examples of two summer signings that haven't really kicked on for them. Right, I can get up the minutes played here. So yeah, as an example on the season so far, and obviously with 8 games left to play, Mohamed Salah's coming in at 3,500 minutes. Alisson Becker's played 3,600. Trent's played about 3,000. They're probably going to get, you'd imagine, 8 games. They'll all get in excess of mid-4 to maybe even 5. People's math will be better than me on that one. But yes, that very much suggests that he goes from being an integral part of the Ajax team, gets his move, and it hasn't worked out thus far. What we did see in terms of his output there in that season, 3 goals and 6 assists, is a solid enough return for the central midfielder. It's not the kind of things that makes your eyes pop out, but it suggests he's a guy who is more doing the legwork for that football team rather than being the guy who's we'll talk about the tip of the spear and what have you. I'm going to look at his per 90 metrics and how he stacks up and some of the other similar players over on FB Ref in a second, but I'll just catch up with some of the comments that we've had in the meantime. Let me go back to the starting ones that I've missed since Quad Bods. Let me see. Mighty Reds 97 has this to say. He reminds me a lot of Genie. Can worm his way out of a tight situation and drive with the ball. That is interesting. Yeah, I actually do see a bit of that. He's comfortable rolling men under pressure in the midfield, which is definitely a very, very useful asset because that's something you need Liverpool on the lookout for, very much so, is when you play out from the back, a lot of the time you're going to have to play with your back to goal, and we talk about centre forwards doing that, and there's a different world where you're one pass away from someone having a shot. When you're playing with your back to 2/3 of the pitch. When you're picking it up in Liverpool's midfield, it's one of the things Klopp loved about having Adam Lallana and Gini Wijnaldum when he first started to really put his team together. The season obviously once after Sadio Mane comes in, which is 16-17. You see it early doors against Arsenal, we get caught a little bit, but then once it starts to click, Liverpool's transition out from the back loads faster. It means you can counter-attack better and you can build better as well. So yeah, really interesting on that one. You know, Genie-like ball carrying and ball retention in the middle of the park. Very, very useful stuff indeed. Next comment then from Just Hannah. Says, I thought the latest word was that Bayern wanted him to stay and won't negotiate transfer fee. Yes, as we've kind of covered already, I think there's a bit of gamesmanship on this. Now, there's another element to that, is obviously Thomas Tuchel's not long in the job, and the story is I believe that Tuchel wants to have more of a look at him. Tuchel values him. That remains to be seen. Again, how much does the player just might not like his life. He might not like his lifestyle. He might not like the squad. He might not like the coaching setup. There's all kinds of reasons. There's a lot of positivity around the Liverpool chat at this point, but you're right. That is Bayern's stance. But of course, Bayern are not going to be messed around by anyone. Bayern don't mess around in the transfer market. They will dig in. They're a European superpower, and they won't be bullied, and they won't be living in a world where Liverpool think, they make it easy for Liverpool to get him. We saw this happen with the Thiago stuff. Thiago wanted to go, and Bayern dug their heels in all summer long. That might be a thing that puts paid to this if Liverpool can't get it done early, by the way. Liverpool won, I suspect, at least, if they're buying 3 midfielders, they'll want 2 in the door at the earliest possible moments. You're talking similar to the Fabinho kind of stuff post Kiev. Within days of the season ending, they'll be wanting deals starting to be tied up. Obviously, they can't join until the window opens in July, but yeah, that is the thing. They want, when they come back to training in July, they'll want those new signings there, ready, ticking over and ready to go. Next comment is from Ben Jones. Hi, Ben. I like the look of Gravenberch. I think he would love to come to Liverpool, and I feel Jürgen would make him into a monster. It's like he turns players into world beaters, and he's young, strong, skilled. Yeah. I think that's a really really good point. And I agree on the age profile thing. I think Liverpool should probably be looking at like 23-year-olds, because that's where we've had some great success in purchases in the past. 23, 24, we kind of did this with Salah, with Mane, and there'll be other examples which I'm totally glossing over at the moment. Even going back to like Fernando Torres is around that kind of, Suarez is in a similar mold as well, where they've done their learning and they're having a breakout season, and they're then ready to step up, because there's still development that happens physically over the next couple of years in your early 20s. Bodies change and adapt, and psychologically you're getting over. There's a big change between you're the young star on the scene and everything's going right for you because you're just full of momentum and pep, and you can just go and troubles bounce off you, and people don't aim shit at you either because you are a young player. Curtis Jones is going through this transition now where all of a sudden you're entering into the age bracket of being a senior footballer, and you don't have any credit in the bank as, oh, he's just a young lad anymore. People don't give you that time anymore. And that's, I agree, where Gravenberch feels a little young. But if you were to add Mason Mount into the mix as well as another player who is far more in the bang on age category, maybe that changes the look of things a little bit. Ben actually just continues his comment here, so I'll get that up. And he says, I think Bayern will sell him, and I think Liverpool might have already things in the works, as we don't know. It's speculation, but if Gravenberch wants to leave, they can't force him, and I would love him. Yeah, that's one of the things it will come down to, is player power will play a significant role in this. Some clubs will dig in. They just will. They'll dig their heels in and they'll be like, nah, not a chance. He's our player. We're sticking it out. And when you're a big club like Bayern Munich, it's loads easier to do. Liverpool have done that with some players in the past. Nat Phillips is a good example of like, now we need you sticking on, deal with it. Oh, well, I have to stay at one of the top clubs in Europe. Shit, never mind. It's not like club players being held against their will at, when this might be their one big chance for a big move. He's already had his big move. He might still want to come good, and he might be able to come good at Bayern. But managers don't want players who don't want to play for them, or heads have been turned. And it's a big boy transfer move, by the way. Barcelona and Real Madrid have been doing this for years. I love it when Liverpool do this. And I have a sneaky little underhanded feeling that we are still playing a little bit of that game with Jude Bellingham. But it does remain to be seen. Right, we've had some super chats. Let me get this one from Jaden Granville. $7.99 Australian dollars. Thank you. That's lovely. Would you rather have two Jude Bellinghams and Chris Pajak in midfield, or Gavi Gravenberch and stay in the six? If you had two Jude Bellinghams and Chris Pajak in midfield, maybe not Chris now, but like if I had 19-year-old Chris Pajak, if I had 17-year-old Chris Pajak before he discovered beer, ciggies, beds, and booze, I at 19, by the way. Chris was amazing. He was one of the best. He's one of the best footballers I've ever played with, Chris Pajak. And whenever I used to put him in like Champman, Footy Manager, Pro Evo, whatever, he'd always end up coming out ridiculously good because he could play every position. Because he was just he's great with both feet. He's got a low centre of gravity. He used to be quite quick as well. Incredibly fierce because he used to be a little lad. And he had that like little man syndrome thing going on where, like fighting against the world. I think you would have, I just don't think a double Jude Bellingham Pajak midfield. It's like that would be like having five players in your midfield if you had those three people. Maybe even six. Thank you, Jaden. There's a clear and obvious winner for that. Stay is quite good at footy. I'll just leave it there. It's Crossbow. Say Steve, if you're watching. He's good too. He's got dodgy ankles now. Next up, it's Crossbow. It is $1.99. Maybe Gakpo and VVD can speak to Gravenberch. Yeah, I think we're seeing a little bit of that. It's people throwing the weight around a bit. And look, why would it not be happening? It's happened with Gakpo from VVD. They're clearly mates. They've clearly got a good relationship. if we were talking about like Trent and Hendo putting the charm offensive on Jude Bellingham, well, why it doesn't just happen exclusively in England camps, does it? It must happen in all kinds of different ones. And Van Dijk is an absolute leader at Liverpool. He's probably, when he retires, he'll be in the list of the greatest Dutch footballers of all time. And bear in mind, there's some tremendous names on that list. And he's obviously a huge figure in world football right now. He has a lot of pull. And Gakpo is another one who's obviously very well liked. There'd be a good they're good reasons to move. I don't know. Are there other Dutch players at Bayern? Someone let me know that in the comments, please. I don't actually know that at all. But that, if you're going to move to a new city as a young person as well, you'd want to have a little bit of a security blanket, and you've got Virgil van Dijk looking out for you, and you've got Gakpo potentially. I mean, unless he thinks they're both pricks, which I can't attest to, but probably not. Virgil's all, I've always thought Virgil was sound. I've not met Gakpo yet. Right. Real in-depth character assessment here. AJ with the £5, thank you. Paul. Does Gravenberch and McAllister really solve our issues? Feels like something is missing with that combo. What do you have a thought on what that might be, AJ? Because I know McAllister can do. I think McAllister can do the lot. I think in my head anyway, and I'll corroborate this if someone wants to back me up. He's probably a bit small, but he can do the defensive stuff, but he's more of a centre mid, but he's been playing further forward as well recently for Brighton. So you could theoretically, could you see him play where Curtis Jones played? And you could see I could see Gravenberch coming in and replacing Fabinho, and that's, he hasn't played loads of DM, but I think there's a change in how we're playing. I think we need more, mobility, physicality and mobility. And I'll read a stat out in a second, which backs up a little bit of my thinking on that. And McAllister, for being a long-term, is he a long-term like Thiago replacement or upgrade or whatever? I don't know. What would I like to see else in that? I think between Gravenberch, McAllister and Mount, I think you've probably got everything, because you've got lads who can play in multiple positions. They can all do a job in a couple of positions then. That would feel a bit more rounded to me, if that answers the question better anyway. Right, I am going to go on to the stats quickly, and then if you've got any more comments, send them in, and we'll continue to have this chat. But just in terms of Ryan Gravenberch on FBref, so we've got his per 90s up on the left hand side here, which is what we'll focus on for the moment. Now this is the last 365 days, so that will encompass the end of his Ajax time, but all of his Bayern Munich time, what little of it there has been. So, in fact, it's a little worrying, actually. I think it might even just be, could even just be his Bayern time. Anyway, what this is saying is, player compared to positional peers in men's Big Five leagues, UEFA Champions League, Europa League, over the last 365 days, and this is based on 602 minutes played. So, in terms of his per 90, so per 90 is always an interesting way to work it out, because it averages it out, rather than saying he's played X games and got, we looked at it before, didn't we? We said he's played X number of games, he's only got one goal. Well, this is obviously averaging it out across the total minutes he's played, dividing it by the 90. So, in terms of his non-penalty XG for players in his position, he's in the 93rd percentile, and his shots total is in the 92nd percentile. Although his actual assists, it puts him in the bottom 9%. His expected assists and non-penalty expected goals and expected is 87 and 93%. So again, very, very favourable. And his shot creating actions, 95th percentile for that one. His passing completion's not great. It's only in the 67 range. Progressive passing, 62%. So that says to me, again, it's more box-to-box / DM that you're looking for in terms of those numbers, because I would be looking for Trent's progressive passes will be better, Harvey Elliott's progressive passes will be better, Thiago's progressive passing will be better. Progressive carries is pretty good. And one thing, I will move on to the next page here, where we start to look a little bit more in depth. So just did his passing in general. That's his short passing's not too bad. 88% for completed is okay for that. And then when we get into long passing, his long passing's not as good. That's a little bit more of a weakness. But then we get into his expected assists again, 89, 88 for key passes, decent. His defensive stuff, I just want to find that a little bit further down. This is where I think it's quite interesting. So his tackles in the defensive third, he's only in the 9th%. He's in the 9th%, the bottom 9% compared to his positional peers. But his tackles in the midfield third, in the middle third of the pitch, 95%. And that again speaks to me more like what Liverpool are looking for. Liverpool don't need, well, maybe we'd argue we do, but I think the way that Liverpool play, it's front foot. It's winning. It's not winning. It's not players who win the ball back in our defensive third, because we've got defenders to do that. Theoretically, what Liverpool want to do is when you're pressing, you want people who engage higher up the pitch and go and win the ball back on the front foot, and then you're creating more counter-attacking opportunities. So that is actually quite interesting. That is, and his final third tackle percentile is 63, which is again, it's not exceptional, but it says he does his better defensive work in the middle of the pitch and in the opposition half than he does going back the other way. Now, some people might look at that and go, what are you talking about him as a Fabinho replacement? I think, yes, but if he's Fabinho plus, if he's a more mobile Fabinho, and he's a Fabinho who does more front foot defender, and that's the best Fabinho, by the way, for me anyway, is the one that is aggressive and is front foot and goes and deals with stuff and snuffs it out, before the danger really gets a chance to sort of take hold. I'm just going to, while I've said that, because I figure it's all well and good me saying all that, and I'm going to have a quick look at Fabinho's stats by comparison. We had a couple of comments here from Ben Jones while I'm waiting for that to load in. This one says, I swear VVD should be our scouting agent as he's getting us the players, but I feel, and this is just me, Liverpool are looking at 4 midfielders, Mount, Gravenberch, Barella and Mac. I feel those are the one. They collectively are the one. Yeah, I agree with that. And just to follow up on what I've got with the stats, Ben says, oh, we got a laptop. I feel all these stats would be a lot better if he had more football. Fuck's sake, Paul. And then says, have you got his stats from his time at Bayern? As I was Ajax, because Bayern time is only 700 plus minutes. Yeah, I'll get into all that kind of stuff in a second. Bear with me a moment. I swear to God, so it's a good laptop, but I'm asking it to do a lot of things right now, and it's going. He said, I feel all those stats would be better if he had more football. He has good carrying of the ball, but his progression on the ball is good, and he's very strong and reminds me of Gakpo, how he breaks. Cool. Yeah, I think that's all decent. Right, let me get into, see if I can find the Fabinho stuff. Right, again, it takes 100 years to get this one over the line. If we're not 100% on Gravenberch, is anyone that you've seen us linked with who does get you excited, does get you a little bit wet? I know a lot of people and anyone who plays Footy Manager and FIFA, how is he on there? Because look, it makes a big psychological boost to fans when you know you're starting to build your team for next season already and go, yeah, well, I know he will work within the game. There's always a useful thing. Less so for old twats like me who haven't got the time to play those things, but it is a thing. Right, let me get the complete Fabinho scouting report up. And then I'm going to get to the defensive types, defensive momentarily. Right, okay, cool. Yeah, there you go. Really interesting that. So Fabinho, by comparison, his defensive tackles in the defensive third are highest. He was in the 24th percentile for that. He's in the 80th for tackles in the midfield third and 32 for the ones in the top end. So you're seeing this Gravenberch is giving a little bit more tackling higher of the pitch, a little bit less doing defensive stuff, but some of that might be positional. If you're asking him to do Fabinho's job, you train him in that, and then he naturally, because he's more in that position of the pitch, he might do a little bit more of that. But I thought that was worth looking at. And then one other last point on him. is to have a little look at who FBref considers to be similar players to Ryan Gravenberch. And again, midfielders over the last 365 days, 10 players on this list. Number 1, Alexis McAllister. Number 2, Conor Gallagher. 3, Kefrim Turam Uli. 4, Yusuf Fofana. 5, Lovro Maya. 6, Jude Bellingham. 7, Federico Valverde. 8, Kevin Stoja. 9, Jean Rickner Bellegarde. And 10, Oscar Rodriguez Arnaiz. And it's telling that, because if you were looking for Jude Bellingham alternatives, the players that are coming up Jude Bellingham should come up on the searches when you're filtering by the stats that they're laying out and what have you. Interesting to see Alexis McAllister in there, Conor Gallagher, 2 players that Liverpool have been very heavily linked with in recent weeks. So yeah, it smells of joined up thinking at the very least for us. That Liverpool have got a profile of footballer. And because what I wouldn't like to see is, and we ranked the Jude Bellingham alternatives on Thursday Night Pint last week, which is now available to watch that segment on its own on Redmen 2 right now with Toby Tarrant, Radio X DJ. Really good show. Go and check that out if you do want. But it's hard sometimes because it's like comparing apples and oranges. Is you say no Bellingham? It was like we went for Tchouaméni, didn't get Tchouaméni, and went all in on Bayern Darwin Núñez. I think we're going to buy midfielders regardless. But if you've got one type of midfielder, so let's say you want a midfield destroyer. I know Bellingham's not that, but if that was on your list, if you want the next Claude Makelele, and then you can't get him, and then you go and buy Mason Mount instead, that doesn't speak to joined up thinking. Now, we are fortunate in some regards that we need to buy so many that there's actually not a type of midfielder we don't need. But when you see McAllister and Gravenberch and Conor Gallagher being comparable to Jude Bellingham, then it doesn't set the pulse racing in the same way, but it does at least give you an inkling of what's being done behind the scenes in terms of the metrics that are being looked at. Right, one final comment here. I'm going to play his out in a second. We've got Neil Jones. So Neil Jones, right for goal. Brilliant journalist that he is. I'm going to play out a clip on that in a second. But Ben says, I feel Gravenberch, Barella, Mac is my 3, but you can go both ways. You could have a Mount, Barella, Mac, but it's a preference. And I feel Gravenberch will be like Fabinho, but younger, stronger, faster. That's what Liverpool's literal mission statement should be. That if they're sat in a room where they make these decisions, it just said, younger, stronger, faster. That's what it should said in big writing on the board around all the faces that they're being linked with. Right, mentioned it. There's a QR code in the corner of the screen. If you want to join Redmen Plus, you can. If you want to get Redmen Plus for 99 pence per month for the next 3 months, which I can't put into words how much of a fucking steal is. It's almost stupid. I'm putting an end to that code. Genuinely am. I had a chat with Steve today. It's basically giving it away. It's almost costing us money to do it at that. But we do want you to see what we're doing. And Liverpool have been in a sticky situation. I know sometimes we need a little bit more help, and sometimes you don't really realise you need it. You want to bury your head in the sand. Maybe you want to switch off from Liverpool content for a bit, but we can't take Liverpool out of our lives and our hearts and our minds. If you come over to Redmen Plus, we've got you covered. We're going to help you through dark times, and we're going to help you celebrate brilliant times as well. Neil has been doing a show called Journo Insight, which he does every Wednesday, tends to be Thursday, going through in-depth insight behind the scenes on Liverpool's transfer business and all of the news stories pertaining to the club. There's a big old chat on Ryan Gravenberch on it this week. So scan the QR code or head to redmenplus.com. Use the code JOURNO, JOURNO, on a Club Captain monthly subscription and get it for just 99p. It's worth 99p on its own, but that's actually 99p a month. So you get all of that content we make each and every week in video and in podcast for a month, and then you get it 3 months worth. It's normally £5 a month. We're reducing it to 99p if you use that code. It's a deal. It's a steal. It's sale of the fucking century. Fill your boots while you can. Right, I'm going to play it out on a clip from Neil so you can get a little taste there. And then don't forget, go over there, use the code, and fill your boots on Journo Insight for this week. All the best.
Soft Bayern Munich. They don't do silly things in the transfer market very often. I think that's the big decision really. I think the player would quite like to leave or would be open to leave, and I think Liverpool would certainly be open to signing him, especially if the price was decent. But I think it all rests on Bayern Munich. He's played so little football in the last 12 months. So I think if Liverpool could get, a deal with Bayern, I think of course he'd jump at it, to be perfectly honest.
Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show. Did you know that if you go over to redmenplus.com and sign up as a Club Legend subscriber, I will personally email you every single month with a new code, which gets you 20% off at redmenmerch.com. That's a no-brainer. Go and do it.